A lot more attention and funding by the various levels of government is needed to ensure that Nigeria prevents and treats cases of viral hepatitis. According to the Society for Gastroenterology and Hepatology in Nigeria, approximately 13% or 1 in 10 Nigerians have chronic hepatitis. Tonight on our Focus on Health, our correspondent Yomi Otaigbe reports that medical experts are advocating better awareness and improved services in the area of vaccination, blood and injection safety.
Hepatitis is an inflammation of the liver. Hepatitis viruses are the most common cause of the condition around the world, but other infections, toxic substances such as alcohol, certain drugs and autoimmune diseases can also cause hepatitis. There are 5 main hepatitis viruses referred to as types A, B, C, D and E.
My message today is about hepatitis B and hepatitis C. Hepatitis B in Nigeria is an important cause of liver cancer and liver damage and liver cirrhosis.
Hepatitis affects about 13% of Nigerians. About 20 million Nigerians have chronic hepatitis. 60 to 70% of Nigerians have evidence of previous infection with hepatitis.
There are different ways of contracting the viruses. Hepatitis A and E are typically caused by the ingestion of contaminated food or water, while hepatitis B, C, and D are usually as a result of contact with infected body fluids.
We know the virus is in blood, we know that it's in body fluid, but we don't often realize that transmission is from child to child. So blood contact between 2 children playing is an important route of transmission. Infection from mother to child is important. And the third most important route in our environment is what they call unsafe injections. This is our practice, because of poverty sometimes, of reusing needles and sharps. It's also important to know that other routes exist, like on-screen blood transfusions, like sexual transmissions. Those are important, especially in adults.
So, here's a random sampling of a few adults on the knowledge of their hepatitis status.
I checked because I was advised to do that, because I was undergoing my marriage class and other things, so it's part of the exercise.
Do you know about hepatitis and do you know your status?
Presently, I don't know my status, but I know about hepatitis.
Early diagnosis of hepatitis is crucial before symptoms such as pain in the belly, dark urine or jaundice begin to manifest.
Most people who are even almost close to the point of dying don't have any signs or symptoms. And once the signs and symptoms appear, the treatment is virtually untreatable. So it's important that people go and test when they are still healthy.
The diagnosis of hepatitis is as important as its treatment. Hepatologists say the patients need support when it comes to treating the condition.
To be actually fully investigated to determine whether a patient requires treatment or not will cost at least about 100,000 naira. The same applies to hepatitis C, which means it's actually a bit more expensive because there are more tests you need to do. Most of our patients disappear because they cannot afford to do these tests, and nobody knows what happens to them after that. So the government has a very strong role to play.
Prevention is always better than cure, while personal and food hygiene are key factors. In the case of hepatitis B, there's a vaccine.
The vaccination is in 3 doses. The first is given 0, 1 and 6. So 0 at 1 month later, then 6 months after the first dose. Okay, so 3 doses. So the 3 doses, the complete series gives a protection of at least 95%. Okay, anybody who has not been exposed to hepatitis B before should take the vaccination. So in other words, you test yourself, you are negative for hepatitis B, take the vaccination. There's no vaccination for hepatitis C presently.
Viral hepatitis is said to be 50 to 100% more infectious than HIV. You can know your status by getting tested. If you're negative, get the complete 3 doses of hepatitis B vaccine. But if positive, get prompt treatment. Yomi Otaigbe reporting for Channels Television News.
Welcome to my world.
The plight of persons living with disability took center stage today as the Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Aisha Al-Hassan, implored the National Assembly to prepare for a passage for a national disability bill to cater for their needs. She explained that the implementation of such legislation would enable Nigeria to fully domesticate the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Speaking at an event marking the 2016 International Day for Disabled Persons in Abuja, our correspondent Ajuri Ngelale packaged this report and voiced by Millicent Walker.
Social stigma arising from cultural beliefs seem to militate against the integration of persons with disability in the country. Addressing a gathering of people with disabilities, Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Aisha Al-Hassan, says that while the passage of the National Disability Bill is critical to address their plight, the federal government refuses to be handicapped by bureaucratic processes.
Of particular mention is the distribution of aids and appliances to persons with disabilities with the support of our development partners. Advocacy visits to the Federal Ministry of Health and other ministries for provision of sign language interpreters in our hospitals as part of rehabilitation service to the hearing impaired persons.
Though enduring visual blindness throughout his life, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Disability Matters, Dr. Samuel Ankeli, expressed a clear vision for persons living with disability, saying that the President's creation of the Presidential Disability Focused Office is an indication to all that they can attain any height in life.
Enough of the frustration you are trying to give yourselves. Every living soul has challenges and problems. You are not unique. Arise and shine, then men will celebrate you.
Convener of the Joint Association of Persons with Disabilities says true progress depends on citizen participation.
Our challenge in managing the affairs of Nigerians with disability is further stretched by largely discriminatory and exclusive nature of Nigerian society.
While several experts have advocated the inclusion of people with disabilities at the political party levels, others have emphasized that 5% of budgetary allocations to all sectors should be administered to establish a friendly environment for persons living with disability.
And elbow crutches.
The Director General of the Consumer Protection Council, Mrs. Dupe Atoki, has reiterated the agency's resolve to ensure that consumers get value for their monies at all times. Mrs. Atoki, who was speaking at a meeting to address complaints on electricity distribution in Nigeria, added that there's been a rise in cases of customer dissatisfaction, especially on electricity supply.
We were without electricity for 6 months, each of those two years. And we've been charged every year, every month, every day for the supply they've never given to us.
A dissatisfied electricity consumer bearing his mind on epileptic power supply and high tariff. For him, this has got to stop if the electricity distribution companies want to make better profits. These and more are some of the reasons why officials of the Consumer Protection Council, CPC, have come up with this interface between electricity consumers and distributors.
The complaints from the consumer side, estimated billings, which is a billing that does not reflect actual consumption, they are compelled to pay for infrastructure like transformers, and there are illegal, unlawful disconnection. The providers also have issues with illegal bypass of the meters and illegal recall disconnection of meters, in addition to destruction of the electrical installations. So it's a two-sided event. And as the consumer protector of all consumers, we believe that it is still within our powers to bring the two sides together and then find a result.
There were also words of advice for Nigerians who intend to purchase electric cables, poles and meters. They are asked to insist on buying products that are of standard to avoid fire outbreak in their buildings.
When you finish your electrical installation, even your house wiring, it is good for you to check that the materials and equipment are the right quality. Like I said about the house, if you don't do that, you have a challenge, you have a problem. Like somebody has provided, for this community, provided a 500 kVA transformer for part of it, but the contractor has installed a 300 kV for you, but he has put a nameplate on it showing 500. You will not enjoy the service.
For now, officials of the Consumer Protection Council promise to wade into matters bothering on consumers' dissatisfaction about distribution companies. This campaign, they say, will be taking to 2 other states. But until then, electricity consumers can only wish for better days ahead.
I see our business studios is set and Millicent has got the day's news.
Welcome to Business News. The federal government has directed the Debt Management Office to verify state governments' claims over deductions for external debt service between 1995 and 2002. The debt service deductions are in respect of the Paris Club, London Club and multilateral debt of the federal government and states. In a statement from the Federal Ministry of Finance, work has commenced to resolve each state government's claim, and the exercise is expected to take approximately 12 months. In the meantime, the federal government is targeting 4 million households in the next 2 years for the adoption of liquefied petroleum gas as cooking fuel. This decision, which is an offshoot of the Sustainable Development Goals, will be something exciting for women as they await the implementation. Our correspondent Temple Asadu has more.
The most common type of cooking fuel in Nigeria is kerosene. And when it comes to ceremonial cooking, the trend switches to firewood. But these two options have been found to be hazardous to health.
So the carcinogen content is much higher that you are inhaling, and there's nothing that's stopping it from getting direct access to your lungs.
In relation to this factor, the federal government came up with a domestic LPG expansion framework targeting 4 million households in the next 2 years.
An interministerial committee on the expansion of domestic LPG in Nigeria has been set up, and I have the privilege of chairing that committee. This committee would oversee the implementation of identified interventions under the domestic LPG expansion framework, starting with the conversion of an initial 4 million households to LPG use as cooking fuel within 2 years. And with us,
to the Nigerian woman, this plan is impressive.
It's the cleanest energy, it's sustainable, and since we are not producing country, we have abundant gas to supply our needs.
Women in LPG business are also gearing up to embrace the program, as the Global Network chapter was recently inaugurated in Nigeria for that purpose.
We're going to tap into the resources of the global chapter in terms of technical know-how, in terms of funding, in terms of experience. There's so much we have to gain.
A lot of people already have their cylinders, so you can get the cylinders from them, and if you're working with a plant, they will fill the gas. The person who is giving you the cylinder would normally have paid. When they book, they pay. So you can take the money to the plant and pay for it. So you're just a broker. There's arbitrage in between, and that's the value that you take, and you can build capital from within that process.
Findings have shown that only 5% of households use cooking gas in Nigeria. With the national gas policy, Nigerians, especially women, look forward to its implementation. Temple Ashaju, Channels Television News.
Well, that's it on Business News tonight. I'm Millicent Nwaka. Is back to Sulaiman for the rest of the news.
Next on the news at 10, football administrators call for expansion of the African Women's Championship. Under 9, Nigeria become champions. That's on Sports News. Stay with us.